Hey everyone, George here, and I'm going to bring to you another video. Now, this scene here is from Flying Hare, Bugs Bunny, being used under fair use. And for those of you that are not familiar with this episode, I think most of us our age are familiar with this episode. Basically, what is happening is Yosemite Sam hires Bugs Bunny to become a stunt driver, a diver, stunt diver, flying off a high high board into a little pool of water, and they come to a situation where it's constantly Yosemite Sam that's falling, and not Bugs Bunny. And then at one point, Yosemite Sam asks them, "Well, how are you defying the law of gravity? This is impossible." And Bugs Bunny replies to him, "Well, I didn't study law." Well, I wish I was a better student at probability and statistics than I always was. And that's the moral of the story here that I'm going to try and portray is that probability, although it's a good skill to have in advanced quality in any game that you play, it's not the end all and the solution to um, most of the dilemmas that you face and most of the challenges that you face. And I'll try and tie that into um, into advanced quality. Now, I had a similar discussion uh, with my Monday night opponent, Mr. Dean Limosani, very intelligent fellow, very challenging, and a good player of advanced warrior. And he is a deep believer of a deep believer, but a good believer in probability. If you have a good shot, you take it. What constitutes a good shot is if you'll get an effect on an average throw. The average throw on a 2d6 is a 7. And if not, look for something else. It's a reasonable assumption to make. However, in playing advanced squad leader, depending on the scenario that you're playing, you can discount probability. I'll tell you why. So let's go on to the board, and yeah, at the end of the day, if you don't agree with me, respectfully tell me your opinion. All right, so we have two adversaries here: Panzer III, T-34, Model 41. Um, let's put platoon movement on the side here, but as you can see here, this Panzer III doesn't have a good shot against a T-34. Now, in order to get a better shot, the player might consider going around and getting a side shot, because we look at the shots or look at the to kill table. Let's get the charts out. Here we are. Okay. And if we look at AP, this fellow has a frontal armor factor of 11 on the hull, 8 on the turret, and 6 on the side. So with a 50, we need a 11, which is equal to his. The most we can hope for is an 11 to kill, and that equals exactly his armor factor, his frontal armor factor. With APCR, we have a little bit of APCR. Assuming it's 1941, we need to roll 4 less. And with that, it's slightly better. 14 to kill versus an armor factor of 11, which is a low probability shot. Anything less than 7 is. Well, so you might think, in this case, well, the solution is go for the probability. The best probability would be probably going around, start for 1, he doesn't shoot, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, turning my turret to stop and turning my turret covered arc in the opposite direction. And lo and behold, now you have a better probability shot, but so does this fellow with the AT gun. Let's unhip him and also put him under concealment counter. Great, isn't it? Now you're facing, you just gave your opponent a side shot with against a 45L AT gun. And you're in worse predicament than you were before. So what is the moral of the story here? The moral of the story is, in this case, instead of paying attention to a probability, you would have to consider other important factors. Do you need to kill the T-34? Are you playing for victory points, or are you playing to defend a location? In which case you wouldn't need to move, but you would need to move, retreat, and let the T-34 come to you at an angle where you could have a better shot. In short, looking at the odds and looking at your best shot can deprive you of remembering what the overall objective is. And then the objective isn't a kill on your opponent. You have to be looking at other strategies. So let's go on to an infantry example. Let's say this is a victory location, and it's the last one that I need to win the game. The location is being controlled by a 467 squad. All I got left is a 237, which is concealed. Now, let's say I survived all attacks and I still have, it's down to the advanced phase, and you need to clean this fellow out and get him. Now, in probability wise, it is very probable that if I advance in this location, that I might be able to ambush this fellow. Now, you tell me the odds. I'll have to endure a 1-2 attack. I will have to execute a 1-2 attack. And if I do get an ambush, I'll need to roll 4 less. On the other hand, that squad, if it gets ambushed, it will have a 2-1 attack with a +1 to its dice roll. I have to roll a 6 or less. Now, do you have a choice? It's the last victory location. It's the only unit that can engage that enemy. Take it, even if the odds of it are low, because probability does not equal predictability. So let's do the ambush. Russians roll first. They get a -2 to their dice roll. I rolled a 1. So 1 minus 2 is -1. And the Germans rolled a 3. I ambushed the German squad. Now I have a 1-2 -1. I need to roll 5 or less. Close combat. 7. I didn't make it. Now, 2-1 +1. 6 or less. Well, the dice never favor my my gameplay. If it was the reverse, it would have been a victory. And the other thing you really should never neglect is, okay, if you're playing a probability game and you have one of these jokers, 1 firepower attack, what can that get you? And you look at a probability table based on the IFT. And you don't see any probability that this squad can make a difference. However, there are two things that this squad can do that can really change your game. First, it has a self rally. Break that square box around 7 means it can self rally. So even if the opponent breaks it, if it does not outright eliminate it, he'll come back up again one day. So let's try a 3 roll and let's try a 7 roll. Rally 3, 7. Oh, there he goes. On the second time after its DM is gone, it's back up. Then the other thing you can do is conceal. And if your opponent conveniently forgot what's behind this, this is a multi-man counter that can ultimately control a hex or a building. The other thing it can do is, let's say this fellow is broken, this fellow is here. It voluntarily loses concealment, and or even if it doesn't, let's say it doesn't, well, its best location would be here. So let's say we voluntarily lose concealment, this guy is broken, it hinders its route to there. And if it needs to get there to get rallied to a leader, well, too bad for it. A couple of other points where I do not have an example, but very important points just the same. So you follow the rules of probability, nothing wrong with that. Being a mathematician and playing your game mathematically, pretty good. But then you risk becoming predictable. You become predictable, your opponent knows your next move and your next shot. So forget about it. Maybe you shouldn't forget about it. Keep it in the back of your mind. Analysis paralysis. Okay, we got a rule book here. Let me show you the rule book. This is just a mini version of it. Here you go. Ha. I keep saying it's a short rule book. Well, compared to other games, it's big, but trust me, it's modular enough in order for you to pick it up. So, you got the rules, you got the scenario card, you got special scenario rules. Add to that probability, and like I said, don't forget about it, keep it in the back of your head, but don't incur analysis paralysis out of it. Do I take this shot or don't I take that shot? Now, that becomes also a risk of showing indecision on behalf of your opponent. And what do you do when you have an indecisive opponent? Be patient. Let them be their own enemy. Great risk usually affords great reward. And at the same token, a great risk can also muddle up your game. So when you're pressed and your back is against the wall and you do have a high risk opportunity, you should not hesitate from taking it due to probability or the law of probability. Now, the other thing you got to keep in the back of your mind is shooting ain't always the answer to winning a scenario. And in fact, in scenarios where you have to capture an objective that is a certain distance from you, shooting is your surefire way whereby you lose the game. So in that case, what you need to worry about more is not how well you shoot, but how well you conceal your units and move them forward without exposing them to enemy fire. Right. And the last one, this is a 5-point, is deception. And deception is key to the game. And I'm not talking about deceiving your opponent with respect to the rules. I'm talking about concealment. Keeping hip units hip until the very last moment that you need them. Do not reveal their location. Keep your fire discipline and seek concealment because concealment is your friend at every angle. And this kind of reminds me of how Dean showed me how to play the game of the scenario of South Show 79. He won as the Russians. Why? He wasn't shooting. He was skulking and using concealment, which was excellent. Excellent. But do you need probability in order to skulk and conceal? You don't. You don't need probability of the dice in that case. And by the way, I have nothing against skulking. The moment I discovered skulking, I adopted it like butter and hot bread. Good stuff. Yeah. I also showed, I guess, a couple of my opponents how the convoy in South Show 79 ends up surviving. And the way they end up surviving is by being reckless and audacious. Because if you stay there and give up hope, throw your hat in the air and say, these guys have no chance in hell in going up against a 75L gun. Well, maybe they're there as a diversion to keep the armor occupied. And maybe you do have to wreck and incur some wrecks in order to meet the objective, whereby the wrecks afford you some cover, or the wrecks impede the movement of your opponent. Cube's pocket. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. 17 minutes long. I'm trying to do one video a day. I have my own personal challenges. One of my biggest endeavors was to volunteer as chairman of the board, governing board at my school, my son's high school. I think I successfully completed that task, getting the basement in order. There's a lot of hard work there to be done. It's challenging, but somebody has to do it. And hey, I hope you enjoyed my 2 cents about I don't need to be a statistician to play ASL. Take care. I burnt my thumb as well. Oh well. Take care. Have a good one.